All right, this is part 2 of the functions, and this is the final part based on the question paper which was written in KwaZulu-Natal. So let's get started. Here on question 5 we're given function of x is equals to negative x plus 1 and g of x is equals to negative 2 over x plus 2. What do we know? Which are not drawn to scale, meaning to say that what you see here and what you saw on what they saw on the paper, it was not drawn to scale, it's just sketches. R and S are points of intersection. This point R and this point S here, they are points of what? Intersection. Observe, this is the function of x, which is negative x plus 1, which is a straight line, and then this is the g of x. They are meeting here and there. That's what they mean by point of intersection of the graph. And then we are told DBQ is a line perpendicular to the x-axis with the D and B on the G and F respectively. So we are being told that this line here is perpendicular, meaning to say that here we've got what? We've got 90 degrees. And then point D is found where? It's found on the hyperbola, and point B is found on the straight line. And the coordinates of Q are, so here where the perpendicular line starts here, the x value is negative 1, and that point is being called Q, whereby the x value is negative 1 and the y value is 0. So now let's go to the questions. Now they say determine 5.1 the equation of the line of symmetry of G with a negative gradient. What does that mean? What they're simply telling you is this equation of the line of symmetry, the equation of the line of symmetry, right? For which graph are they talking about when they say G? They're talking about the hyperbola, right? So your teacher would have told you that there are two types of what? Lines of symmetry on a hyperbolic graph. We're simply saying that based on this graph that you have, the distance from the arcs of this hyperbola, there will be a line, right? So there is a line. Let me just do it like this. All right, this is a hyperbola. So there is a line here which we call the line of symmetry, meaning to say that the distance from here to there and the distance from here to there, if from here to there it's 2, it means that from here to there also it's 2, meaning to say that they are separated what? They are separated equally, right? So this line that I've drawn for you here, this line of symmetry, its equation is what? Y is equals to x plus q, and it's increasing, right? Then there is the opposite line, right? It's also a line of symmetry, but it goes in an opposite direction. Now, these arcs which we have, let's say that we have got a what? A line which now divides them here. So this half is equal to that half, and this half is equal to that half, right? Now, what is the difference between these two? There are two differences actually between these two lines of axis of symmetry. Now, what happens with these lines of symmetry? This one, it does not touch these graphs, whereas the other one is touching the graphs, right? So this one, which is touching the graphs in this particular scenario, it's what? This, if you check or if you remember from the linear functions video that I gave you, I said that in this direction, this we know as a what? As a decreasing function. And when we've got a decreasing function, what is the equation? The equation is y is equals to negative x plus q, right? So this is what they are looking for, the line. Now, what do we do? Where does the q come from? If we go back to our equation, g of x is equals to negative 2 over x plus 2. This q which we have here, which we have been provided as 2, that's what we substitute here. So we say, therefore, the line of symmetry is y is equals to negative x plus 2. And for writing like that and substituting these two into the equation, then you get your 2 marks. right? So if they had asked for the increasing one, we would have come and said y is equals to positive x plus 2. Then we would have found it. That's all they wanted. 2 free marks. Now, let's go to question 5.2. Now, question 5.2 says, the coordinates of R and S, and it has got 6 marks. So in other words, they're saying that we must find the coordinate of point R and we must also find the coordinates of point S, right? So what do we know? These are points of intersection. Okay, so what can we do in order for us to solve this particular challenge? What do we know? We know that the x value at point R, it is the same as the x value what? It is the same for the line graph as well as the hyperbola on this negative side. We know that the x here, it's also similar. So what do? We now take this equation, function of x, which is negative x. We say negative x plus 1 is equal to, we take this equation, negative 2 over x plus 2. Why am I saying they're equal? Because the x value here and the y value, they are equal. They are meeting at a particular point, right? So they are equal. So what do? Will I have enough space? Let's see. Now, I now say I need to get rid of this what? I need to get rid of this x. But before I get rid of the x, let me make life easier. Let me transpose this positive 2. So now I've got negative x plus 1, then negative 2 is equal to what? 2 over x. And 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So I've got negative x and negative 1, which is equals to 2 over x. Now I multiply by x on this side. I go and I multiply by x on the other side. This x and that x, they cancel out. Then positive times negative, I get a negative sign. And then x times x gives us x squared. Positive times negative, that's a negative. X times 1, that's x, which is equal to 2. Now, what do I do next? Now I'm going to transpose this 2, which now gives me what? Negative x squared minus x is then minus 2, right, is equal to 0. Now, I don't want to work with this negative, so what am I going to do? I'm now going to multiply inside by a negative 1, and I also multiply this side by negative 1. Negative times negative, that's positive x squared. Negative times negative, that's a positive x. Negative times negative, another positive, and 0 remains 0. So now we've got x squared plus x plus 2. We must factorize. Now we say x squared here plus x plus 2 is equal to 0. Then we open the bracket, we say x, another bracket, x is equal to 0. Now, what gives me 2? Didn't I make a mistake? Because if I say x plus times x, I get x. And then if I say 1 times 1, I get, oh no, wait. Here, x times x, that's x squared. X times that, that's what? That's x times x squared, that's positive 2x. Then this is positive x, and that gives me positive 2, which is equals to 0. And this will give me 3x, but I don't have 3x here. So I must check where did I go wrong. Let me restart with this equation. Okay. Okay, let me restart with the equation. And I can erase this side because the part which is left in the last question, it needs me to use that other side. Okay. So I've got negative x plus 1. I'm saying negative x plus 1 is equal to negative x or negative 2 over x. That's where my mistake is. I didn't continue with this negative 2. You can see here it was now a positive. That's where I made the mistake. That's why it's not giving me the correct thing. All right, so I start by transposing. Now I've got negative x plus 1 minus 2 is equals to negative 2 over x. So please be careful of the sign. Don't make the mistake I made, right? Because you get stuck. All right, so now I say I've got negative x, 1 minus 2, I get what? Negative 1, which is equals to negative 2 over x. Now I want to get rid of the denominator. I multiply by x, and I go and I multiply by x on the other side. X and x, they cancel out. Positive and negative, I get a negative. X times x, that's x squared. Positive times negative, that's a negative. X times 1, that's x, which is equals to negative 2. Now I transpose this. It now becomes negative x squared minus x plus 2 is equal to 0. Now I don't want to work with this, so I multiply throughout by negative 1. Negative and negative, that's a positive x squared. Negative and negative, that's another positive x. And negative times positive, that's a negative 2, which is equals to 0. Check. That's where the mistake was. Now I say that I've got x and I've got x, which are equal to 0. X and x, that's x squared. What gives me? I've got a negative and a positive here, which means one bracket is a negative, the other bracket is a positive. Now, which numbers give me negative 2? Which two factors? Negative 1 and positive 2, or positive 1 and negative 2. But I want a positive what? I want a positive 1. So which means I will make my 2 to be positive. So I've got positive and negative. Let's test out what I've done. X and x, x squared. X times 2, 2x. Negative times positive, negative. 1 by x, x. Negative times positive, negative. 1 by 2, 2. 2x minus x, that's x. Negative 2 and x squared. So my factors are correct. Now I'm not yet done. What should I do? Now I go ahead and I say that x minus 1 is equal to 0, or x plus 2 is equal to 0. Therefore, my x, I transpose this, is equals to 1, or my x is equal to negative 2, of which it makes sense. Why am I saying it makes sense? Because here where the r is, the x is negative, which means that the x is negative 2. And where I erased, if you remember where s was, it was on the positive zone, which is the positive 1, right? So we have found x. But remember, what do we want? We want x and y, because we didn't know x, now we know x. And now we must also find what? Y. Why am I saying that? Because remember, the question carries 6 marks as well, right? So when I come back, now I say, I set up my equation again. Now I choose what I want, right? Here, I can choose this graph to say that my y is equals to negative, which came with the formula, when my x is negative what? 2. So I open the bracket, I say negative 2 plus 1. Therefore, my y is equals to negative times negative, that's a positive. 2 plus 1, that's 3. So I'm now saying at point R, when my x is negative what? 2, my y is equals to 3. Done. Then I go and I say my y is equal to, right? I'm using this equation, negative open bracket positive 1 plus what? Plus 1, which is equals to y is equals to negative times positive, that's a negative 1 plus 1. Then I say therefore my y is equals to what? Negative 1 plus is 0. Therefore I say my s is equals to what? When my x was 1, my y was what? 0. If you remember where s was, it was an x-intercept. So I have found my answers and I get my 6 marks, right? Now let's go to the last question, which now says determine the length of DB, and it's how many marks? 3 marks. So we must say what is the length of this point from point B to point D? How long is this? But it's easy. Why do I say so? Let me show you. Now, point B is found on a straight line, but we have been told that it's -1. So I come and I take this equation. I say y is equals to negative, open bracket, -1, right? Plus what? Plus 1. Y is equals to negative times negative, that's a positive. So we've got +1 plus 1. Therefore, we can conclude y is equals to what? 2, right? So we now know that at point B, our x-coordinate is -1 and our y-coordinate is 2. Now let's go to point D. Point D is found on the hyperbola. And what is the equation for the hyperbola? G of x is equals to -2 over x. So now we come here and we say y is equals to -2 over. We know that the x-coordinate is -1. So -1 plus what? Plus 2. Y is equals to negative times negative. That's a positive. And 2 divided by 1 is equals to 2. So we've got 2 plus 2, which is equals to what? Therefore, y is equals to 4. Now we know that at point D, our x is -1 and our y is 4, right? So here, this is 4, and there here, this is 2. But we want to know the length between these 2 points. So now we say length of D, D minus B, is equals to dB. What is the y value at point D? It's 4. Minus the y value at point B, it's 2. So dB is equals to 4 minus 2. Therefore, we can say dB is equals to 2 units. So line DB is 2 units long. And just like that, we are done. So if you found this video to be very helpful, please do consider subscribing, like, comment, and share. Till we meet next time, cheers.